All right, welcome to the Elise Mertens Show. I'm Jay Crouch, bringing Grudzinski straight away. The pride of Limburg, Belgium. Elise getting it done for the Waking Cash for Bet the Edge listeners. Good morning of tennis, Drew. You enjoying it?
Yeah, it's been a very very fun one. I had a lot. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little tired. Got up a little early to watch that Elise Mertens show, and boy was that exciting! Great performance by her. You cheer a little bit for the Americans. You want to see them do well. This isn't Jeff Spagula's surface, so I don't really feel bad. Much happier to get that money line home. 6-1, 6-3 for Elise. And she is showing some really, really high quality form, not just in this particular tournament, but on clay this year. Her hold break numbers are outstanding. And I think we might have a little third quarter winner there. She certainly has taken out the favorite in that quarter, and there's really no one else that spooks you. So Elise Mertens could be looking at her second career semifinal. And first in a while. Last time she was at that stage was 2018 against Caroline Wozniacki. So really fun result. And then I'm currently actively sweating Djokovic 3-0. He got thoroughly outplayed in the first set, but won in a tie break because he won basically every clutch point he needed to avoid losing 7-5 by, with Davidovich serving for the set, and then just produced some outstanding quality in the tie break itself. So long way to go for him, but I'm sweating that outright. I'm sweating 3-0, and I would like to see a little bit better tennis from Mr. Djokovic.
Yeah, it's okay. I think he's got an extra gear in reserve, and he probably got out of jail snatching that first set, but fingers crossed. Someone with a bit of Elise Mertens in him is Nikola Jokic, who last night put on a clinic. We're going to start off talking NBA, then we're going to get into Coach of the Year and close out with more French Open chat. But let's go to Ball Arena. Yeah. And pretty underwhelming game last night, I thought, and kind of unfolded the way I think everyone kind of thought it would unfold, where from the tip, the thing that was most notable, like it wasn't just Jokic, it was Gordon and Porter and all these guys who were just 6'10" and above. And as soon as it was clear that Caleb Martin can't really guard Aaron Gordon, that's when it seemed like it'd be trouble for the Heat. And then Max Strus had an out-of-body experience in a bad way after having an out-of-body experience in a good way in previous series, 0 of 9 from 3. Jimmy Butler has not looked right since he sprained his ankle against New York. He hasn't been the same guy. He had flashes in the first two games of the Boston series, memorably the last 6 minutes of game 2 where he too-smalled Grant Williams, but he just doesn't look like the same guy. And if Butler's not the same guy and the Heat aren't making threes, then they kind of look like a team that went 44-38 and was 3 minutes away from getting knocked out of the play-in by Kobe White. But what did you make of the game? And any ways to bet the series going forward?
So that was my least favorite type of game. The Heat were drawing dead, and they looked like they knew it after a quarter. And I don't really know what you do with it at that point. Like the margin was out of control going into the fourth quarter. I thought the Nuggets took their foot off the gas maybe a little bit early. I could be saying that selfishly because I wanted more Nuggets points. I wanted a bigger margin. I had some alt Nuggets in pocket that did not come through because they gave back so much in the fourth quarter. But it's really tough to make anything of that, of the rest of the series based on that one result because the disparity in rest was so significant. And I honestly thought that the Nuggets looked a little rusty, even in winning by double digits. Michael Porter Jr. couldn't really find his three. Regression came calling for the Heat shooters, which, I think you pretty eloquently nailed the Kobe Martin scoring under. I think is going to have a tough time getting there at this point, considering what we saw in Game 1. So at this point, I don't think that you can really take a ton out of Game 1. To kind of continue to adjust the rest of the series. You have to sort of stick with your convictions, and my convictions is the Nuggets are going to win in shorts, in a short series here. And for that reason, looking at the Game 2 market where they are 8.5-point favorites makes perfect sense to me. There are going to be, and there already was a lot of excuse making from Heat supporters. I felt like yesterday, that was a win. Look how we came back. We solved some stuff. There was some Highsmith buzz. Highsmith has figured out Joker. No. No, that's not the case at all. And I think realistically, the Heat don't have the answers in terms of scheme or personnel to really ever solve Jokic. And so I think at this point, going back to the well with the second within game 2 for an over, I think the adjustment down to 214.5 that we're looking at currently was too much. I played some last night. I think it opened actually at 212.5. So it's already come back up a hair, but I think the kind of 218-19 range is more fair. And we do tend to see, when you have this big rest disparity in game 1, the second game of series like that tend to play to the over. And so, the fact that you are getting an adjustment off of game 1 total and another couple of days for the Heat to acclimate, and now they are on even footing in terms of rest relative to the last game, not overall, I think is going to matter. And for what it's worth, the rest disparity that you saw in game 1 does have a shadow. Right. If you look at specifically this situation where you have a team that is in game 2 where, they have played, as much in recent week as the Heat have, they are still losing almost 80% of the time. And that is a problem for them because I don't think realistically they'd have a schematic way to get back in this series. They just are going to need shooting luck to steal one here. And so for those reasons, 8.5 as a game 2 side makes perfect sense to me. And I think, I'm just going to sit on my hands and as far as the side goes, and sit on my Nuggets sweep and reevaluate when we get to game 3. What about you?
Yeah, I thought Miami got decent enough shots where they shouldn't have been down 21 at three-quarter time or whatever the margin was. Like, they were getting open threes for Strus. At the same time, they weren't getting anything at the rim or in the paint. Bam was making tough shots. They took 2 free throws the entire game, and that was Highsmith. If Butler's not getting to the line, they don't really have anyone who can get there. And then with the Highsmith on Jokic thing, I think the issue with just kind of the thought process around that is that people think it's Rui 2.0. Like, Anthony Davis is a significantly better rim protector than Bam Adebayo. Like, Bam Adebayo blocks less than a shot a game, and rim protection isn't about just blocking shots, but Bam just isn't as big as AD, and that's why that was so effective, is that AD was able to wall off the rim by himself, and still it was effective. The Nuggets still scored 122 points per 100 in the series, which is the greatest offense of all time. So I just don't think there's any answer for this Nuggets team. I think this is a historically good team and maybe the best offense there's ever been. And the Heat, I think the Heat will probably shoot 48% from 3 and steal one game in the series, and it probably ends up 4-1, though certainly the sweep price from before the series is looking pretty good. And even now, I think plus 350 is still a little bit appetizing. The minus 2.5 series handicap for the Nuggets as well, which if you shop around, I think you get minus 115 on that, I think. So as much as the Heat missed shots, also felt like Jokic and the Nuggets were kind of, they didn't have to get to fifth gear. They didn't really have to show much. They just handled their business. They just asserted their size. Like, if the series takes another turn, the Nuggets will have another gear. So ultimately, I think this is going to be a short series. I think the best way to bet it is to take Jokic minus 400 finals MVP and parlay that into anything else that you like on the planet, because I think he's a 95% chance to win if the Nuggets win. Admittedly, it may be a shorter series, so there is a bit more variance where if Murray goes off for 48 points in one of these games. But at the same time, Murray had an otherworldly series against the Lakers, basically a 10 out of 10 series for him, and didn't get a single vote for MVP. So I think Jokic MVP. I think Nuggets minus 2.5 series handicap. Still think the sweep as well. Is there anything else I'm missing? Anything else we should be tackling?
I don't think so. I guess, did you agree with me that the Nuggets looked a little rusty? I guess some in the back of my head, this entire playoff run for them, I've been a little worried that their defense might just not be that good. And there were definitely moments in the game against the Heat where I was like, geez, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. That was a mistake. If they don't clean that up, it'll eventually cost them. Did you have any sense of that the Nuggets have a higher level defensively, or just in general can play better than what we saw?
Yeah, I think defensively they were a little bit bit rusty. The thing is with Jokic is that there is no rust when you have Jokic on offense. Like he just gets you a good shot. He gets you a good to great shot every single possession. That's why I think he's just the best offensive player certainly that I've ever seen. And just the floor that he gets you to on a possession by possession basis is just untenable. And I mean, I thought Bam was pretty good last night on defense in terms of fronting him, making it difficult to get to his spots. But as soon as Jokic is backing anyone down on that team, it's just a 5-alarm fire. Like it's just over. And he can put Bam in the hole one-on-one. Bam can't guard him one-on-one in the post. Bam can front and make it difficult for him to get to that spot. Once Jokic gets it, though, it's just all over. So I don't really see how the Heat have any path to winning 4 games in this series. Maybe they can get 1 or 2, but I would be stunned if the Nuggets lost this series now.
Yeah, no disagreement. Is there an answer if you're Spoelstra for the size disparity?
No, there's not. What are you going to do? Like play Kevin Love, he's 6'8". Play more Zeller, that means you're playing more Zeller. Like there's no answer. Their best players Jimmy Butler and Bam and Caleb Martin and then guards and Robinson and like there's no answer. They can't get bigger. And it's a huge problem where Aaron Gordon, like if the Nuggets, if for some reason something's not working on offense, then they can just start going Aaron Gordon, backing guys down. That's what they're doing at the start of the first quarter. So yeah, I just don't think the Heat have any answers. Obviously can never discount Spo and Jimmy, but this series, if the Heat are going to make this series interesting, they need some 10 out of 10 Jimmy Butler games, not the 3 out of 10 that he gave them last night where he scores 13 points. So I think it's going to be a short series, but I'd be pleasantly surprised if it's not. All right, before we get to Coach of the Year, a reminder to download the RotoWorld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster, get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in the App Store today. Okay, yesterday we happened across a little discussion around Shane Steichen and his chances of winning Coach of the Year, so we thought we'd revisit it in a bit more depth. I do think this is an interesting market just from a betting theory perspective and how you go about it. So how do you want to tackle this?
Well, let's cross some names off first, and I'm going to propose certain guys in different classes. Some of it is this guy does not fit the historical winner profile. Some of them are opinion based as well. But let's start with the kind of the easy ones first. If you're a team that's expected to win 10 games, you have to do so much beyond that to get consideration for Coach of the Year that I'm ready to pretty much cross you off, particularly if you're an incumbent coach. We can start the list with Andy Reid. Chiefs are expected to win 12 games. Andy Reid is a cross off. I think McDermott in Buffalo, similar story. They're expected to win 11, 12 games. And I think Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, similar story. And I honestly think Cincinnati might underachieve this year, but that's opinion. And then we get into some of the kind of more edge cases. Nick Sirianni expected to equal his production from last year. That's going to be tough. I think you cross off Sirianni. And then we get into a little bit trickier ones where their win total is hovering right around 9-10. And I'm going to cross off Stefanski. I'm going to cross off Harbaugh. I'm going to cross off Mike McCarthy. I'm going to cross off Doug Peterson. I'm going to cross off Brandon Staley. These are all 9.5 win total teams. I think Mike McDaniel is a cross off as well because he's got such a talented team that he's at 9.5. And that kind of leaves us now with a huge question about two teams. Actually, excuse me. I'm going to cross off Robert Saleh as well. He's at 9.5. That class of like 9.5ers. If you see a team in there that you think realistically can like win the 1 seed with conviction, then maybe revisit those. But I don't know that I see a ton, I don't see enough upside in Coach of the Year odds to really kind of keep those guys in the pool. And then that leaves us with a huge question mark, which is what do we do with the favorite in this market? Dan Campbell and the Lions are expected to win 9.5 games. To me, expectations can really only be met or missed as opposed to exceeded. And when it comes to Coach of the Year, I need a coach that is really going to exceed expectations. So I'm ready to cross off the favorite in this market and Dan Campbell, especially at price of 8-1. I mean, the Lions have to get the 1 seed in the NFC if he's going to get that consideration. Am I crazy?
No, I agree with you. I think that the bar is set very high for Campbell. At the same time, if he gets the 1 seed, that's pretty much auto win to get the Detroit Lions to the 1 seed. But again, at the price 8-1, it's not particularly appetizing.
Yeah.
I think your process is right here. The way that I look at this market is basically who has a realistic chance to win if their team gets to like an 85th percentile outcome of the season? Who's going to get the credit? And the way this usually works is you need to improve by 4 wins off the previous season or exceed your win total by 3 or 4 games, and then not have a superstar quarterback who steals credit from you. Now, there are exceptions to that, like Belichick, a couple of Brady seasons where Belichick, he's Bill Belichick. So he has a little bit of a caveat there. John Harbaugh, Lamar's MVP season. But I think the fact that Lamar was so young and the offense was so revolutionary that Harbaugh got the credit there. So, the same names that you crossed off, I would also cross off. And some of those guys, and, I think you caveated this already, but if the Chargers go 15-2 and they're the 1 seed, then Brandon Staley will probably win Coach of the Year. But the odds of them doing that are probably longer than what his Coach of the Year price is.
Great way to frame it.
So the names to me that jump out in terms of who will get the credit and who has a realistic path to winning 3 or 4 games above expectation, winning their division. I'd look at guys like Matt LaFleur, Matt Eberflus. I think Mike McDaniel, if he wins the AFC East, will get a lot of credit. Also, the other thing too is with all these Coach of the Year awards, you need to be able to see the coaching. So when Dallas were exceeding expectations 2 years ago with Mike McCarthy, no one actually really knows what Mike McCarthy does. Does he actually do anything, or is it just Dan Quinn and the defense got really good? Mike McCarthy has like the Doc Rivers kind of stench for this type of award. So I just don't think he's ever going to win it unless they go 17-0. So when you think of it like that, like Mike McDaniel, you can see his play calling. You can see it in their offense. The coaching is very evident. So I think that he would get the credit. Yeah. Sean Payton, if he fixes Russell Wilson and that team goes 13-4, I think he is very live. Kyle Shanahan, if Sam Darnold is the quarterback, which looks less likely now, looks like it's going to be Brock Purdy. I don't think Shanahan can win if Purdy is the quarterback unless they go 16-1 or better. Mike Tomlin, if he wins the AFC North, Mike Tomlin's never won this award. And so I think that he would get the credit in that case. But yeah, I think it's a relatively small group of names. 2 guys I wanted to get your thoughts on.
Sure.
Arthur Smith and Frank Reich can both win their division with teams that are not prestige teams at the moment, not really thought of as division winners. Do you think if either of those teams went 11-6, that those guys would win Coach of the Year? Or do you think that just 11-6, smaller markets, bad division, they just wouldn't get enough credit?
I think 10 wins puts Reich in the conversation because he's so well liked. And I think, not unlike Dable last year. And with the rookie quarterback, with some of the issues that they have offensively in terms of skill position players, I think 10 wins puts Reich in the combo. 11 wins puts Arthur Smith in the conversation, conditional on them getting a 2 seed probably. Seeding is important. You need to be like, if you're a Falcons team that's kind of expected to be around 500, you got to be in the Nick Sirianni kind of a mold of last year in terms of market support. If you're Arthur Smith, I think. But I think all your points are fair. And I don't know. I want to cross more guys off just on the basis of I don't think this team, opinion based. I don't think realistically this team is going to be able to exceed expectation enough to be put themselves in consideration. So I want to keep crossing off Todd Bowles. I'm going to cross off Sean McVay. I'm going to cross off Ron Rivera, Dennis Allen, Josh McDaniels, Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel. I think we can cross off Brian Dable just on the basis of being even better than he was last year is going to be extremely tough. And I mean, we're down to a handful of names, and it's a bunch of the ones that you mentioned. Interesting that you put Mike McDaniel in the conversation because I completely agree. He will get the lion's share of the credit if the Dolphins are good, even though his team is a super team. Right? Like that roster is absolutely loaded, but it's fun when something good happens on offense, the camera will find McDaniel and and when Monday morning comes up and the, Dolphins beat the Bills, surprisingly, the conversation will be about, wow, amazing the way McDaniel, crafted that offensive approach to beat the Bills. Right. Whereas it's the opposite with the Mike McCarthy. every time something terrible happens, the camera loves to find Mike McCarthy and show him making a stupid face. Every time the Cowboys underwhelm on national TV, the conversation on Monday is, what did Mike McCarthy do wrong? Right? Like, those things absolutely have influence on the way that coaches are perceived. And I think you have to weave that into the conversation here. So the final kind of list of candidates I have: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys that I think have realistic chance to win this award. Or at this point, it becomes about opinion and price, I think. I kind of don't think Sean Payton can realistically turn around the Broncos in such a difficult, it's a really, really tough ask in a really, really challenging division. I kind of want to throw out all of the AFC Northers just because that's going to be so competitive. I think you could win the AFC. It's just going to be much tougher needle to thread to exceed expectations by enough in the AFC that I almost want to only specifically shop in the NFC. Or do you kind of there?
Yeah, the one exception to that would be McDaniel, just because, to your point, like, he is the face of that team. He's on the court at Heat games. He's doing the banging the drum at Panthers games. Like, he's just everywhere. He's the best interview of all the coaches. The media loves him, and he'll get the credit if they win the AFC. And I think people as well have probably an inflated perception of the Jets and how good the Jets are going to be, and that's going to help McDaniel, where if they win that division, they're going to be seen as winning like a super division. And if they win the division, also that means that they're probably a 1 or a 2 seed. And in that case, I think McDaniel would win. So my two favorite bets in the market. Go ahead. I
was going to say, does this year, though, doesn't it kind of feel like there's going to be a team that's perceived to be quite bad that sneaks into the playoffs, and that could be, not like the Giants last year, kind of? Like, is that more the mold than a team leaping and getting a 1?
Yeah, I mean, those are the two paths, and my other favorite bet in the market fits more that mold, and that's Matt LaFleur, who I think we've talked about. Where LaFleur, I think you can still get him at around 20-1, 20-5-1. He'll get all the credit if Green Bay are good. Obviously, Jordan Love, I think he will get credit for being able to mold that transition in a way if they stay competitive, and also they play in primetime 5 different times, which is going to help Matt LaFleur. So if they go 11-6 and win the NFC North in the first year without Rodgers, then that's a pretty compelling Coach of the Year case. And also it knocked out Dan Campbell and Eberflus, who are 2 of the top favorites in the market.
That's a great point. 30-1 LaFleur. All right, putting that in the portfolio. What else you
got? McDaniel 20-1. I think Eberflus as well. If you can get 16-1 or better on him, I think that is a decent bet. And then outside of that, there's nothing super appetizing to me. Do you have one favorite bet in the market?
I'm going to toss Eberflus, not because I don't believe in the Bears, but because I feel like there's going to be a lot of it's so much. If the Bears do anything this year, the credit will go to Justin Fields making the expected year 3 leap. With more talent around him, which is not a crazy case at all. And honestly, like, if you're handicapping offensive rookie of the year market, I think you got to keep a side eye on Justin Fields. And in general, the offensive player of the year market. I just didn't, he's not an MVP candidate in my mind, but he definitely is the guy I think if the Bears do anything is going to get the credit. I like what you brought up yesterday, honestly. Shane Steichen potentially with the Colts stealing a playoff wild card in a very competitive AFC looks very realistic to me. An injury to Trevor Lawrence opens the door for them to just win their division outright, which automatically, like, oh boy, like now this is out of control runaway train. Shane Steichen, Coach of the Year. And even better than any of this, Jay, if you look at the schedule for the Colts, the last 7 weeks of the season, it is plausible that they could play 6 first or second year quarterbacks.
Yep.
Now, if Anthony Richardson has any pulse at all at that point in the season, and they're going up against quarterbacks who the game is moving too fast or, just in general don't have enough talent, they could come down the home stretch hot, which is important. And I know I'm saying this on the heels of Brian Daboll going 2-6-1 or whatever, and we're still winning, but, finishing strong and having some positive results and some momentum at the end of the season matters to me. So I'm gonna steal your look and put Shane Steichen for sure in my portfolio. Steichen, LaFleur, Arthur Smith, I got to put him in just because I do believe in the Falcons potentially getting a top 2-3 seed in the NFC. And then, gosh, I think that's probably where I got to stop.
Yeah. Okay. I would add McDaniel, but I agree on the 3. And the thing with Steichen as well, before we move on, is that like after he'll get credit for being the quarterback whisperer, where he turns Jalen Hurts into an MVP candidate. He makes Anthony Richardson into a guy who's spearheading a playoff team in year 1, and that will build.
Yeah.
I think you'll get a ton of credit there. Also, the Colts have, I think, more talent than people give them credit for. So,
definitely.
I agree on Steichen. All right. Just a reminder, Sunday morning means MLB leadoff. Watch exclusive live games all season long on Peacock. This week, check out an NL Central battle between the Cards and the Pirates in Pittsburgh. Catch the action live this Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern. All right, let's close out with some French Open chat.
I'm starting to get excited, by the way, for this Cardinals-Pirates game. Like every time you pitch it, I'm like, yeah, this is a big game. This is going to be exciting. NL Central on the...
Pirates offense has got some pieces, and the Cardinals. I bet on the Cardinals actually yesterday at 17-1 to win the NL. I think that they have another gear to get to, and I think ultimately they're going to win that not great division. Better divisions in the French Open, where the outright on the men's side took a bit of a hit yesterday with old mate Yannick Sinner, really Yannick Sinnering his way to an incredible loss. I will never understand why he played the break point that he had in the final game of his French Open, why he played that the way he did, just kind of tapped back and overhead. For some reason, took a forehand volley, just bunted that one back instead of just like letting that bounce and then putting it away for the winner. I don't know what he was doing, but he's opened up the men's side of the draw. So do you think there are any bets on that side now that the bottom half is wide open?
I was surprised that the market wasn't more inclined to shorten Rune because he is now the clear class on the bottom. The equity looks like it was spread between Rune, Zverev, and Ruud, which, okay, fine. I mean, Ruud was a finalist last year. He could go back. No, I'm not strongly against that. His path is quite tough, though. Zverev, similarly, like that was about as uninspiring a straight sex victory as you can have yesterday. Really just have not seen anywhere close to the level that he brought in last year's French Open before his ankle injury this year. So maybe he finds it. But the guy that I think realistically you got to be eyes on is our guy, America's Captain America, Taylor Fritz, top-rated American player. He got into a nice little aggro yesterday with the French crowd. I'm not sure if you saw this, but I think he dispatched the last French man in the field, and in doing so was booed violently by the French crowd. They are not afraid in France to make their voices heard when they are upset about an outcome. And Fritz, instead of kind of shrinking in the moment, he gave them the silent treatment, gave them the shush, and then put away the win. It was pretty cool moment, I think, and Taylor Fritz has shown enough on clay for me this season to actually believe he's got a chance. He's got a couple of pretty decent results. His losses are to good players, so I think he can put together a high enough stretch of tennis here, assuming, like, I didn't love seeing him play at night. It was the conditions were a little wet, a little damper, and he's definitely, I would like to see him have some matches in the drier daytime portion of the OOP. But Fritz, I think realistically is the price that you want to grab right now, considering the bottom is wide open. And I think he could definitely lose 3-1 in the final to Novak Djokovic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I don't mind the look on Fritz. He's still 10-1 to win his quarter as well.
That's wild to me. That's crazy to me.
I think that's a good bet. On the women's side, Swiatek still -105, Sabalenka into +300. And then, I mean, the interesting thing with the draw is that Swiatek, Rybakina, and Ons, I think, are pretty clearly 3 of the 4 best, and they're loaded on one side of the draw. So it's right there for Sabalenka to make a charge to the final. Elise Mertens, who was 100-1 this morning to win the French, she is now pretty live that she's knocked out Pegula in her quarter. Dasha, our girl. I don't know why Taylor Fritz is my guy. I don't believe I've ever been associated with Mr. Fritz.
No, I'm saying America's guy, America's men's tennis player.
I live in America.
He's Captain America. Yes.
Yeah. No, I like it. But yeah, definitely our girl is Dasha Kasatkina, who's into 25-1. Not sure there's much meat on the bone there.
Yeah.
Any bets for you on the women's side?
Yeah, the problem, I mean, Kasatkina, Dasha has been awesome. She won 6-0, 6-1 against a live Peyton Stearns today, and it didn't even really feel that competitive. Her problem is that her quarterfinal opponent is likely going to be Arina Sabalenka. She good. And not only is she good, but she is in good form right now. Haven't really seen even a moment of wobble from her so far in this tournament. She looks very, very strong. She likely takes out Sloane Stephens in this next round. And I would expect that's a straight sets loss for Dasha in the quarterfinal there. Although I think Dasha gets to the quarterfinal. I think she beats the winner of this Svitolina Blinkova match, which is hopefully Svitolina. That's been a great story. But yeah, on the bottom, I think this is still Sabalenka comes out pretty cleanly. She could come out of this bottom half without losing a set. I like Mertens to win Q3 still. Nice matchup for her next against the protected rank of former finalist Pavlyuchenkova. But no one on the top half that spooks you there other than maybe an informed Claire Towson. Top half is really where the action is. Iga pretty cleanly through to a quarterfinal matchup against whoever comes out of the bottom, which is going to be probably decided tomorrow morning. And we'll hold our tongue a little bit about previewing the Andreeva Coco Gauff match. But that particular quarterfinal is a must watch, as is the potential head-to-head between Robatkina and Ons Jabeur in the Q2.
Yep, no, I like that breakdown. Let's go straight to Wake and Cash. What do you got for tomorrow?
So back to that Mira Andreeva Coco Gauff match. You have a qualifier against a 6 seed, which means that this would probably be a -500 type of market, right? No, this is almost getting close to a pick'em. Andreeva opened up in around the +130 range. She's bet pretty. She's had a lot of market support throughout qualifying here and through her run to this stage of the tournament. And so it was no surprise to see her shorten. Right now, she is +110 on the money line. And the big question is, can a qualifier put it together against a former finalist here? And the answer for me is yes. And the reasons are very simple. Coco Gauff is not playing anywhere close to the level of tennis she was playing at this tournament last year, despite her getting to this stage of the tournament relatively unscathed. Her last match against Grauber, she had a very, very tricky time holding serve, particularly in the middle portion of that match. If she has anywhere close to that type of wobble, she's going to find herself in a spot of bother against the Mira Andreeva, who has a lot of the constitutional qualities of an Elena Rybakina. She is unflappable, unfazed. She doesn't really understand that she shouldn't be doing this at her age in this type of setting, which is dangerous. Like when you have these younger players that just are doing it for the first time, like they're not going to have the same mental baggage of, well, I've been in this spot before and lost. Maybe it happens again. And to me, that matters. So Mira Andreeva, I would give both the physical quality of her game and mental advantage over a Coco Gauff, who, is honestly, great job getting to this stage of the tournament, but I think is pretty overmatched in this particular head-to-head. So the qualifier for me, Mira Andreeva, if you follow women's tennis, is a name that you're going to hear a lot in the next 5-10 years. She has that ceiling of top 3 player, and I think that this is basically her coming out party.
Yep. And good call by you giving out Andreeva at, I think, 500-1 before the tournament. And now she's +110 to beat Coco Gauff, which is quite a turn of events. So, yeah, she's very live. I'm going with our man, Francis Tiafoe, +4.5 games on the handicap against Alexander Zverev in tomorrow's matchup at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Not entirely convinced by Zverev. I don't think he's all the way back yet. It was only a few weeks ago that he was getting beat by the great Christopher O'Connell on clay. Tiafoe's had decent form on clay. I think that win in Houston now looks a little bit more impressive given some of the people that he beat on the way there and how they've performed on clay. So give me Francis Tiafoe. I mean, what do you make of Zverev at the moment?
Not impressed. And I think Francis Tiafoe is a player who you almost explicitly have to take his intermediate tournament results on best of 3 and bump them when you get to best of 5, because he brings his best in these matches when they, against the top competition. He is unbelievably good. He took on peak Roger Federer, peak Rafa Nadal, and he has given them absolute hell in best of 5. And I think this is a really fun look. I think he can win outright. We didn't mention him for, any type of futures kind of consideration, but he is 100% live to win quarter 4, in my opinion. And what a story that would be to have a French Open semifinal with 2 American men's tennis players. Honestly, the last time that happened was we're talking like Michael Chang years, Andre Agassi versus somebody. I mean, it honestly is. We're talking like 80s probably since the last time that we've had a men's semifinal that was 2 American players, and I think it's actually potentially live this year.
Yep. Could certainly happen. Tiafoe also gave Alcaraz quite a run in New York as well. All right. That wraps it up for us. Don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick. We will see you on Monday. Good luck with your bets.